Hello, my name is Trent Houston, and this is my project on radioactive waste dumping. Radioactive waste can originate from various sources, including nuclear power plants, nuclear weapons testing, and accidents such as the Fukushima and Chernobyl disasters. These events have released significant amounts of radioactive materials into the atmosphere and the water, leading to their subsequent distribution and accumulation in the oceans. Once in the marine environment, radioactive waste poses several concerns. One primary issue is the potential harm it can cause to marine life. Radioactive substances can contaminate aquatic organisms, affecting their health, reproductive capabilities, and genetic integrity. This contamination can then move through the food chain, impacting various species and potentially reaching human populations that rely on seafood as a significant food source.
Radioactive waste can also persist in the environment for extended periods, with some isotopes having half-lives spanning decades or even millennia. This long-term persistence raises concerns about the cumulative effects of radioactive contamination on marine ecosystems and the potential for bioaccumulation over time. The most common way fish become contaminated is through a process called bioaccumulation. This occurs when fish ingest or absorb the radioactive materials present in the water. Some radioactive substances mimic essential minerals that fish need, such as calcium, and are taken up by their bodies. As fish consume food or water, these radioactive substances accumulate in their tissues, including muscles and organs. Another pathway of contamination is through the food chain. Small organisms, such as plankton, algae, or small fish, can directly ingest the radioactive materials in the water. These are then larger fish, and the radioactive substances move up the food chain. This process is known as biomagnification. As larger fish consume smaller fish, the concentration of radioactive substances can increase significantly in their bodies. Once fish become contaminated, the radioactive materials can cause damage to their cells, DNA, and organs. This damage can lead to various health issues, including reduced growth rates, reproductive problems, and increased susceptibility to diseases. Additionally, it can affect the fish's behavior and migration patterns. Recently, on March 11, 2011, a magnitude 9.0 earthquake struck off the northeastern coast of Japan, causing a massive tsunami. The tsunami's waves, reaching heights of up to 40 meters, 131 feet, overwhelmed the protective seawalls and flooded the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant complex. The resulting damage disabled the power supply and backup systems required to cool the reactors. With the loss of the cooling capabilities, the reactors experienced overheating, leading to a partial or complete meltdown of their fuel cores. This resulted in the release of large amounts of radioactive materials into the surrounding environment. The Fukushima disaster had significant environmental, health, and socioeconomic impacts. The released radioactive materials contaminated the air, soil, and water in the vicinity of the plant. It affected local agricultural, fisheries, and tourism industries, leading to economic losses and displacement of communities. Before the Fukushima disaster, in the mid-20th century, the United States engaged in the practice of dumping radioactive waste into the ocean. This practice occurred during a time when the potential risks and environmental impacts of such actions were not fully understood or regulated. The dumping of radioactive waste into the ocean began in the 1940s and continued into the early 1970s. The waste originated from various sources, including nuclear weapons testing, nuclear power plants, and research facilities. The primary objective was to dispose of radioactive materials in a manner that was thought to be relatively safe and cost-effective at the time. Radioactive waste was transported to designated dumping sites in barrels, containers, or drums. These containers were then loaded onto ships and intentionally discharged into the ocean. The dumping took place at multiple locations, including Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Arctic Ocean. As the understanding of the potential risks associated with radioactive waste increased, concerns about the environmental and health impacts of ocean dumping grew. The scientific community and environmental activists raised alarm about the long-term consequences of releasing radioactive materials into marine ecosystems.
As a result, the United States and other countries gradually recognized the need for stricter regulations and international agreements to address the issue. In 1972, the London Convention on the Prevention of Marine Pollution by Dumping of Waste and Other Matter was adopted. It prohibited the dumping of most types of radioactive waste into the ocean and established guidelines for the disposal of other types of waste. Later in the century, the United States enacted domestic legislation, such as the Ocean Dumping Ban Act of 1988, which further restricted the disposal of all types of waste, including the radioactive waste in the ocean. Moving forward, there is no clear-cut solution to this problem. However, scientists have been attempting to create a means of curing or filtering the radiation out of the water. While not much can be done right now, continued support and advocacy for the cleansing of radioactive waste from the ocean is essential to having a future with a clean ocean.